Father, there's a lot of discussion in society today about these gender roles, they're called. First of all, I'd like to know what you think of that term of gender roles. Is there a better terminology for that? But where do we what is the source that we learn about these gender roles from? We hear things sometimes like say the man should be the protector and provider of his family. The woman should be the heart of the family. She should be the husband's helpmate. And we hear things like this. Sometimes people might not agree with some of those things, but is there a source that all of these ideas for gender roles come from? If there is a source, what is it? Where do we get these
God. From? God himself. He made male and female, and he created a human man and human woman, and he joined them together for the sake of giving life and caring for each other. These are the two purposes given in the book of Genesis, why God created them and joined them together. So God is the one who authored these things, and God is the one who designed these things. And he did design man to be the provider and the protector. And he designed woman to be essentially the life giver, the as you say, the heart of the family. Sometimes people say the man is meant to be the head of the family, literally, the head, the thinker, and the woman is made to be the heart of the family, the one who feels, right, who has emotions. Well, that's not really fair. It's not really accurate either, because God gave them to each other as really partners, in a marriage, to perform these two services for him. God gave them to each other to jointly give life, right? And it's a joint effort there, right? And God created them jointly to care for each other, and that he knew that they needed each other to care for each other. So they're both human, and they both have human souls. They both have intellect and will. Both man and woman are created in the image of God by nature. And they each reflect the perfections of God in a special way. So it's not fair to say the man is supposed to do the thinking and the woman is supposed to do the feeling, okay? I mean, let's face it, you're a married man. You didn't marry a woman with the idea, well, I'm going to do all the thinking, and you're not supposed to do any thinking. You just do the feeling, okay? And tell me what you feel, and I'll think about it. You didn't marry a woman with that idea. You married a woman whom you respected. If you didn't marry a woman you respected, that would be very foolish, wouldn't it? It'd be very foolish for you, any man, to marry a woman he doesn't respect. Just as it would be very foolish for a woman to marry a man she doesn't respect. So immediately you'd think that, well, if a man marries a woman and a woman marries a man, then that's a pretty clear sign that they respect each other very much, and they respect each other for their qualities, their virtues. They just don't respect them for being male and female. They respect them for being man and woman, masculine and feminine. And one of the most important things about that is that they love each other. What does it mean? Well, we say that the philosophers say that love is actually a matter of willing the good of the other. That any true love involves willing the good of another person, benevolencia, they call it. And so that applies to actually the love we have for our fellow men, that we want their good. But there's a special love that has to be present between a man and a woman who get married. It's not just the love of friendship. It's not just the love of relatives, of the extended family and so on. There has to be a very special love between a man and a woman who marry, because they have to be so united that they've got to be united in faith, really. The church says, this is the way it should be. They should be united in a common faith. They should be united in their intelligence. Their intellect should be united in such a way that they can communicate with each other in an intelligent, thoughtful way and a reasonable way, and that they can respect each other for their intelligence. But also emotionally. They have to be bound together emotionally. They must be, well, nowadays I guess they say compatible uh, in their feelings. Now, a woman's feelings and a man's feelings, well, let's put it this way. Men and women do not express their feelings in the same way. They have the same feelings, essentially, the same passions, but they just express them differently. But they have to be, complementary. Uh, they in a sense, there's sort of supplementarity and complementarity. They have to work together also emotionally. And they have to find that attraction also on the physical level. You expect a couple that gets married to be so united with each other in all these ways that they can relate to each other in the correct sense of the word, have a proper relationship with each other, that they are drawn to each other. What does the book of Genesis chapter 3 says? It says the two shall become two in one flesh. That bond between them should be so close and so intimate. Now, I've had people come and say we want to get married, and in the process of giving the marriage instruction, it seemed to be that they were very fond of each other, but I just don't know that they really love each other as they need to love each other to be husband and wife. They may be great friends, but when a man and a woman marry, they have to love each other in a very unique and powerful way, because they've got to love each other for the long haul, as long as they both live, and they've got to have the will to love every day of their lives. Even when they don't necessarily like each other, they still have to love each other. In fact, you might even say, even when they don't like each other, it's most important for them to love each other more, most of all. And that's an act of the will. It's a decision you make to love. It's an act of the will to love. So, you have to have that in a married couple, and if they bound together that tightly. Nowadays, I don't know that many people who marry necessarily love each other that way. I don't know where they'd get the example except from their own parents. Mm. I mean, ideally, every young man and young woman would have learned the meaning of love in his own family, especially from his own parents, counseling him verbally, but especially setting the example of love. And one of the primary manifestations of love is patience. You have to, what does Saint Francis de Sales says? He says, we need an ocean of patience. He even says that the married state is the most difficult state of all. St. Francis de Sales said that. Really? In his estimation. And if that was true back in the 1600s, it's certainly every bit as true right now. Mm-hmm. So, in any case, Tom, there has to be a true love present there, but we have to learn to love. And I mentioned that in the last program. In fact, we have to learn two things to really know who God is, let alone who we ourselves are. And that is, we have to learn the meaning of authority. We have to learn the meaning of love. And the two of them are inseparable, or should be inseparable, because all authority must be motivated by love and exercised because of love, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. An authority that tries to impose itself without love behind it is tyranny, is the most brutal tyranny. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, starts in the home. Now, the husband does have a role to play, there's no doubt about it. God did not create Adam and Eve identical, and so you would expect that they would each have their role to play. And it is true. I mean, God gave to Adam the primary responsibility. Adam was primarily responsible. So much so that even when Eve fell to the serpent's temptation, it was not yet, quote, original sin until Adam himself, until Adam himself bit, as it were. When Adam took that and took that, well, they call it an apple, but it was the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that's very important to remember. It's a matter of the knowledge of good and evil that they were biting into. Something that they did not know evil. They did not know evil at that time, but they wanted that, right? Because the serpent tempted Eve and told her that if she took of that and learned of the knowledge, had the knowledge of good and evil, she would be as God. And so we think about Eve falling victim to the temptation of Satan himself, a fallen, at least archangel, right? So, but we think of Adam falling simply because Eve presented this to him and wanted him to do this. I've mentioned before that I think that order of temptation was very well thought out by Satan, who knew that he would be much more able to influence Eve than he would Adam, but that Eve had much more influence over Adam than even Lucifer did, and that Adam might do for Eve what he would not do for Lucifer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And in any case, that's how it worked out, right? And so that's when original sin actually took place, and that's when original sin actually became effective, when Adam himself fell. He's the one who bears the primary responsibility. And as the one who bears the primary responsibility, he must have the primary authority too, to go with that. If he didn't have the primary authority, he wouldn't have the primary responsibility. It wouldn't work. It doesn't work that way. The responsibility and the authority have to come together. He had it. He bears the responsibility, and ultimately the shame is his for what happened. But the fact is that God, in creating man and woman, was instilling in them his own image, and he was, in a sense, giving them the two great factors, in a sense, we might see in the very concept of God himself, loving Father. And men love, women love, but they don't love the same way. The word love is common to both of them, and it has an essential meaning that is common to both. But men love as men, and women love as women. God wanted it that way. He designed it that way. Women think as women, men think as men. They are not identical in that. God wanted both. He wanted them to complement each other. He wanted them to support each other. It's sort of like two eyes. You know, when you have two eyes, you have depth perception. You know, when you have one eye, you don't have that depth perception. And the two eyes together work together to give us the depth perception we have. God wanted the two perspectives, the masculine and the feminine perspective. And God wanted them to be drawn to each other by that. There's a certain kind of mystery and complementarity, as I say, that draws them together. And they realize that together they're stronger than they would be individually. A man marries a woman because he believes she brings something to him that maybe he can live without, but he doesn't want to live without it. He wants her to be in his life. And the same with a woman. I mean, she's drawn to the man because she sees that he brings to her life certain qualities and certain goods that she doesn't have necessarily, not to that degree anyway. And she sees that he adds something to her life. And she might say, well, I can live without him if I have to, but I don't want to. And so they agree to marry each other. And they'll be together as long as they both live. And for better and for worse, right? For richer, for poorer, sickness and health until death. Those are the terms of the contract. And that last part, until death, that's the hard part, right? Mm. But every marriage contract, every marriage, the vows always end with those words, until death do us part. Very sobering thought. Anyway, yes, the roles are fixed by God, and they are meant to work together, and they are meant to make a man and a woman stronger together than they could be apart from each other.
Until next time, we ask that you all remember the words of Our Lady at Fatima, to consecrate yourselves and your families to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and to pray and do penance. Thank you, and God bless you.